Hello everyone and welcome to this new video, and today we're going to see how to turn AI into your learning coach and not as your brain replacement. Because you've probably seen this recent MIT study that found out that using ChatGPT regularly reduces your brain connectivity, weakens your memory, and literally causes cognitive decline. And there is something that everyone's missed inside this study, because the problem isn't the AI itself. It's how you use it, and especially using it passively. And there is a specific way to use AI that keeps your brain active instead of letting it atrophy. And the difference between cognitive depth and cognitive multiplication comes down to how you structure the interaction. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you the exact neuroscience-based workflow that I've developed after 3 years of using the Zettelkasten method. And I created a system that turns ChatGPT into your learning coach instead of your brain replacement. And this system, you'll be able to use it immediately. So let's begin. So what exactly is happening in your brain when you use AI passively? And basically the MIT study merged this with EEG technology. They found out that when people regularly use ChatGPT to help them write essays or solve problems, their neural activity decreased. Not just during AI use, but also after they stop using it. And the researchers call this cognitive depth. Your brain's intellectual effort weakens over time like a muscle that stops being used. And the participants showed lower memory retention, weaker engagement with their own work, and reduced sense of ownership over what they created. But here's what makes this concerning, because the effects persisted even after people stopped using AI regularly. The cognitive decline didn't immediately reverse, and the essays themselves were more superficial, more biased, and harder for the writers to remember or explain. So if you compare this to participants who wrote without AI, they showed stronger brain engagement, better memory, and they actually felt more satisfied with their own work. So the headlines got it right. AI use can make you dumber. But the interesting thing is that the same study that showed that cognitive decline happens when using AI also revealed the exact conditions that prevent it. Because not everyone in the study experienced cognitive decline. Because the participants who used search engines instead of AI retained strong cognitive performance. And the reason is because using search engines forces you to evaluate, synthesize, and think, which is all things that AI now can do for you if you aren't using it correctly. So the real question is, what's the actual difference between AI that deters cognition and AI that enhances it? And the difference comes down to one word, which is passivity. When you ask ChatGPT what is X or summarize this article for me, then your brain goes into receive mode. You're consuming an answer that something else generated. And so that means you're not processing, you're not connecting ID, you're not synthesizing, and you're not actively engaging with the material. And it's when you're actually outsourcing cognition. This is like using a calculator to do 2 plus 2 over and over instead of just doing it in your head. Your math muscle atrophy, and the problem isn't the calculator itself, but the fact that you stopped using the underlying skill behind the calculator. And AI is exactly the same. So instead of asking AI for answers, you ask AI to ask you questions. This way, the interaction will force you to retrieve information from memory, explain concepts in your own words, and make connections to what you already know. And doing this makes it AI active usage. And doing that is actually more cognitively demanding than not using AI at all. And I've been using the Zettelkasten method for a long time now. I've created more than 500 permanent notes in my system, and most of them were created without any AI assistance. But recently I was wondering how I could turn this manual workflow into an interactive workflow using AI, but without losing the benefits of doing it myself. So now, here's what I do. When I consume content, which can be an article, a video transcript, a podcast, anything, I put AI in the role of a learning coach who asks me to do those things. And this flips the entire dynamic completely, because now AI isn't replacing my connection, but amplifying it, making my brain more active and making my memory stronger. But to make this work, you need to turn the interaction into a system that you can repeatedly use, and of course that's what I created. So here is the workflow that I've created. So this workflow is based on 6 evidence-based learning principles that neuroscientists have proven to work. So the first principle is the testing effect. Retrieval practice pulling information from memory, is far more effective than rereading or reviewing. Every time you force your brain to retrieve something, you strengthen the neural pathway. And this is why flashcards work better than highlighting. And the workflow uses this by having AI ask you what to remember from the content before actually discussing it. This way, your brain has to do the work. Then the second principle is the generation effect. Content you generate yourself is remembered better than content you consume. So when you reformulate an idea in your own words, you're not just storing it, but actually processing it through your unique knowledge network. The workflow forces you to explain concept as if teaching someone else. AI won't accept passive repetition. It will push you to reformulate with your own words. The third principle is elaborative learning. So asking why creates meaning, and meaning is what makes information stick in your brain. So when you can explain why something matters or why it works, you've moved from surface understanding to deep comprehension. There's actually a podcast from Naval where he said that basically for things that are important, you don't need to actually remember them because you will naturally remember them. Like when you stumble upon a concept that is connected very deeply to your core values and what matters to you, you will naturally remember it way easier than something that doesn't relate to you at all. So that's why if I tell you something that you don't care at all, well, you won't retain it, even if you are trying to retain it using learning techniques. So that's why the best thing is to learn things based on curiosity, because things that you are curious about are actually linked to what you deeply value in life. And that's why the workflow I've created will require you to justify why each concept is worth remembering. And if you can't explain its significance, that means you haven't actually learned it or you won't actually remember it. Then the fourth principle is associative learning. Your brain doesn't store information in isolation, it stores it through connections. And the more connections you can build between your information and existing knowledge, the easier it is to retrieve and apply. And this is the foundation of the Zettelkasten method. Every new node connects to existing nodes, and the workflow explicitly asks you to identify these connections. Then we have the fifth principle, which is cognitive disequilibrium. So when you encounter information that contradicts what you thought you knew, your brain pays attention. And that discomfort, that cognitive tension, is actually the feeling of learning happening. And the workflow asks you what surprised you or challenged your beliefs. And those moments are gold for memory formation when you actually find things that are contrary to the new information you learned. And the final principle is metacognition, which is thinking about your thinking, being able to assess what you actually understand versus what you only think you understand. And this is one of the most powerful predictors of learning success. So the workflow includes explicit metacognitive checks, which are rate your understanding, identifying what's still unclear, and notice gaps in your knowledge by yourself. The thing with passive AI is that basically it doesn't apply any of these concepts. You're not retrieving, you're not generating anything, and you're not making connection, which is why you don't remember anything and why you're experiencing cognitive depth. But when you structure AI interaction around this principle, you turn it into the most powerful learning tool you've ever used. So how to actually do that and what does this look like in practice? So now let's look at the workflow in itself. So the interactive learning workflow is this one. So I will open this document and I will tell you at the end of this video how you can actually get access to the document for free. But basically, this workflow has 6 phases that take about 40 minutes for a complete session, and I've also created a 15-minute quick version you can use daily. So the entire workflow is designed around this one principle, that is to keep your brain active while AI amplifies your learning. So the first phase is basically giving the content you're learning about to the AI. So you will just pass whatever content you want to learn from into ChatGPT. This could be an article, a video transcript, podcast summaries, anything that you actually want to remember and integrate. Then you give AI a specific initialization prompt, and the prompt will tell the AI's role that it's your learning coach and not just an answer machine, and that the job is to ask questions that activate the neuroscience principles we just covered. So basically with the prompt, very simple, you can just copy paste it, it's here. And what I do also is that I give the entire workflow to AI as context. So basically I just have to tell him like, okay, initialize the workflow and help me go through each step together. So the second phase is cognitive activation. So here AI will start asking you questions one at a time based on the neuroscience principle. So the first question type will be active recall, and it will ask you what are the 3 to 5 main ideas you remember from this content. So your brain has to retrieve without looking back and activate the testing effect. Then the second question is the generation effect. So here it will ask you to explain this concept using your own word as if teaching a beginner. This way you can't just repeat what the article said, you have to actually reformulate. Then we have question 3, which is elaborative learning. Here it will ask you why is this concept important and what problem does it solve. This way you're forced to create meaning as we've seen together. Then we'll have the fourth question, which is associative learning, and it will ask you what existing knowledge does this connect to and how does this relate to other things you know. This way you are also finding new connections that will fuel your Zettelkasten. And then the fifth concept is cognitive disequilibrium. Here it will ask you what surprised you and what challenged your existing beliefs. This way you can articulate what contradicted your assumptions and identify exactly where growth occurred. And the sixth type of question is meta-connection, and here it will ask you to rate your understanding on a scale of 1 to 10 and find what's still unclear to you. The best thing with AI is that when I'm showing you things like that, it looks like it's basically always the same questions, but the truth is AI will actually adapt to which kind of content you've given it and to your answers. So that's the great way with AI, is that basically all of the questions you just seen will be adapted to the content of the material you're learning. So that makes it always personalized, which is of course one of the main benefits of using AI for that. And this way you're doing all the cognitive work instead of outsourcing it to AI. AI is just asking the questions and guiding you through the process, and this way your brain remains active. So the first phase is feedback. So now you've answered the question, so AI will provide constructive feedback. It will validate what you understood correctly, clarifies misconception, and add nuances you might have missed, which is critical to challenge superficial responses. If you give a surface level answer, AI pushes back by asking you questions so you can be more specific or find evidence that supports what you said, and this way you can stay very active in the learning process and AI becomes a sparring partner. Then we have the phase 4, the atomic extraction. So now it's all about using the Zettelkasten method. By the way, if you don't know what is the Zettelkasten method and you want to learn more about that, I have a dedicated video on my YouTube channel that goes over the Zettelkasten method and why it's the best way to learn anything. So if you're interested, you can click on the link that will appear on your screen right now and you can look at this video. But basically, now you will identify the 2 to 3 core concepts from the content that are worth keeping as permanent notes. And the key principle of the Zettelkasten method is the atomicity principle, which means that one concept equals one note. So you don't want to put everything from the article into the note, but just the specific timeless ideas that are worth preserving. And for each concept, you reformulate it as a permanent note. So it will have a clear, searchable title, 2 to 4 sentences capturing the essence in your own words, 1 sentence on why it matters, and a link back to the source material. This is also what makes a big difference with passive AI usage, because if AI extracts the concept for you, you haven't processed them, you haven't made them yours. So the note might look good, but it won't stick in your brain. So when you do the extraction work yourself, with AI asking guiding questions, you're building the neural pathways that make the knowledge retrievable later. Then in phase 5, we have the connection. So here, in this phase, you will use Luhmann's 6 triggers questions to find new connections to your existing knowledge network. So here are the questions. You have the integration question. How does this fit into what you already know? The explanation question. Could this concept explain another idea in my system? Then the contradiction. What does this challenge or contradict? Attraction. What this idea appeal to you? And then the perspective shift. How would this look from a different angle? And application. What are 3 concrete ways you will use this? The goal of this question is to help you find new connections with your existing notes. So you don't need to answer all of them, but if they spark something in you and they make you think, okay, I think this concept links to that another concept I've studied 3 weeks ago, then you can just make the link in your knowledge management system. Of course, in Kortex, if you want to create links, it's very easy. You just have to tag the document in your note and you will create a connection. And doing that is what allows you to have ID sex happening. So ID sex is the collision of concepts that creates new insights. This way, your 2 to 3 new nodes won't just sit in isolation, but will become a part of a growing interconnected knowledge network. And this is what separates a true second brain from a folder of disconnected highlights. The connections are where the value lives. And finally, in the sixth phase, we have consolidation. Here, the AI will provide a summary package with a list of permanent notes created, suggested map of content you can link them to, potential connections to explore, one space repetition question for future review, and serendipitous connection IDs. By the way, that space repetition question is very useful because if you really want to remember that concept in 3 days or a week, you can test yourself on this concept without looking at your notes using this question. This will leverage the spacing effect, one of the most powerful learning principles we have. And the serendipitous connections will allow you to leverage AI to find patterns across domains. This way you can find even more links that you may have not thought about before. This prompt sends you down the rabbit hole that build unexpected insight, and that's the complete workflow, 6 phases, and in total it will take about 40 minutes. And at the end you will transform passive consumption into active learning that actually sticks. So to summarize, the MIT study is real. Passive AI use does cause cognitive decline, but the problem isn't the AI itself, it's outsourcing your thinking instead of enhancing it. So the solution is structuring AI interactions around neuroscience principles that keep your brain active. When you use AI this way, it becomes a learning partner that multiplies your cognition instead of replacing it. So here's exactly how you can start using it today. First, you can download this complete interactive learning workflow from Noah's Ark Bank. It's completely free. You will get the exact initialization prompt I showed you, the full 6-phase system, and the detailed instruction for every step in the document. Second, you can just try it with one piece of content this week and go through the full workflow and see what happens. And third, if you're really committed to build your own AI second brain inside Kortex, well, you can start actually doing so. You can create the permanent nodes with this workflow and connect them to your other nodes as your knowledge network will grow. And that's where the real value will compound, that you will find a lot of benefits from using the Zettelkasten method. And if you want to do that, you will find everything you need inside Noah's Ark Bank. You will find multiple AI workflow prompts for content creation, complete Zettelkasten system templates optimized for Kortex, and everything you need to build an AI-enhanced second brain without the cognitive depth. Honestly, the future isn't about whether you will use AI or not, because the decision has already been made. AI is here and it's not going away. But the real question is whether you use it in a way that makes you smarter or dumber, whether you let it replace your thinking or enhance it. This workflow ensures you're on the right side of that divide. You get AI's processing power, its pattern recognition, its ability to ask the right questions, but you keep your cognition active. And that's how you can actually turn AI into your learning coach instead of your brain replacement. So download Noah's Ark Bank, the link is in the description. Try to start with one piece of content this week and let me know in the comments what you discover and if you like this workflow. If this changed how you think about AI in learning, you can subscribe for more workflows that blend human creativity with AI capability without the cognitive depth. I like to create those systems inside Kortex so you can build your own AI second brain. So if that's something that interests you, you can subscribe and activate the bell for further notification. Thank you for watching and welcome back to Noah's Ark. Bye.